His name is Kenji. He's 65 years old, a retired teacher living in the quiet suburbs of Kyoto. For the last 3 years, he's felt like the fire inside him has been slowly burning out. No longer interested in his wife, no longer feeling the desire for intimacy. And so, he stayed silent, telling himself this must just be part of getting older. But what Kenji didn't expect was that when he finally went to see a doctor, not for chest pain, but simply because his sex life had grown dull, he discovered his heart was in serious danger. Kenji was diagnosed with severe atherosclerosis, a silent disease, but a deadly one. Losing desire after 60 can sometimes be the warning bell from your heart. My name is Dr. Nakamura. I'm a sexual health specialist here in Japan. For the past 20 years, I've worked with over 4,000 older men, helping them bring back their energy, their memory, and their emotions at an age when most people think decline is inevitable. For me, losing the fire of intimacy is not about losing manhood. It's about losing connection, losing life itself. And sometimes it's the very first signal your heart is desperately trying to send you. So if you've ever felt yourself weakening in this area, stay with me in this video. Don't scroll away. Because in just a moment, you'll understand why, when intimacy begins to fade, it might actually be your heart sending out an emergency signal, long before chest pain ever appears. Now, many men think that erectile problems after 60 are just part of aging. But the truth is, you may need to think again. Because more and more scientific research shows, when sexual vitality declines, it can often be the very first warning sign of something far more serious: cardiovascular disease. One large study in Europe found that men over 60 who developed erectile difficulties or a loss of desire had a 40 to 60% higher risk of heart disease. And here's what's most important. These sexual symptoms often show up 2 to 5 years before a heart attack. Why does this happen? It comes down to blood vessels. The arteries in the penis are much smaller than the ones in the heart. When arteries throughout the body begin to harden, whether from high blood pressure, diabetes, or high cholesterol, blood flow decreases. And because the vessels in the penis are thinner and more delicate, they are the first to be affected. Trouble getting an erection or a loss of desire. It's not the end of your youth. It's the very first knock at the door of a silent disease. I remember one patient from the U.S., Charles, 66, a retired banker. He came to me embarrassed, saying he hadn't been able to have sex for almost 6 months. He thought it was just old age. But after careful testing, we found signs of moderate coronary artery disease. Fortunately, because it was caught early, he was able to change his lifestyle, control the disease, and not long after, his intimacy with his wife came back to life. You see, losing the fire of intimacy isn't just about what happens in the bedroom. It can be your body's quiet warning that your heart needs help. So, if you feel yourself beginning to weaken, don't just shrug and think, "I'm old now." It could very well be your heart trying to speak to you in a very gentle, very private way. So what exactly ties sexual health and heart health together so closely? In the next section, we'll explore the invisible scientific mechanisms that determine a man's health. vitality, and even longevity. When people talk about sexuality and cardiovascular health, most assume they're two totally separate things. But in reality, they're deeply connected. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice when one weakens, the other usually declines too. Let's start with blood vessels and a very special molecule called nitric oxide. This chemical helps blood vessels relax and improves circulation. During sexual arousal, the body releases nitric oxide to bring blood into the penis, creating an erection. But if the arteries are hardened from diabetes, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol, this molecule can't do its job. The result? Poor blood flow, weaker erections, and difficulty with intimacy. Here's what matters. That same arterial stiffness that affects performance in the bedroom is happening at the very same time inside your heart. What you feel in bed is really a smaller reflection of what your heart is struggling with every single day. Next is testosterone. This hormone isn't just about sex, it's also vital for cardiovascular health. Low testosterone increases the risk of heart disease. A major 2023 study called TRAVERSE showed that properly managed testosterone therapy does not raise the risk of heart attack, challenging one of the biggest fears men have carried for years. And let's not forget this. Sex itself is exercise. A single sexual encounter burns about the same energy as climbing 2 flights of stairs. If your heart is healthy, it's a light, emotional workout. But if your heart is weak, even this small effort can trigger chest pain or shortness of breath. That's why cardiologists often say, if you can climb 2 flights of stairs without getting exhausted, then intimacy is usually safe. But there's another piece we often overlook: psychology and social connection. Persistent loneliness raises the risk of heart attack and stroke by nearly 30%. When we lose touch, literally, the hugs, the closeness, the physical connection, the nervous system responds as if it's under chronic stress. And over time, that stress weakens the cardiovascular system. I once met a man named Mr. Sakamoto, 71 years old, living alone after his wife passed away. At first, he complained that he just didn't feel attraction toward women anymore. But after a few conversations, I realized the deeper issue wasn't physical, it was loneliness. He started joining a morning walking club. 6 months later, he told me something beautifully simple. "Doctor, I don't just feel healthier, I feel alive again." And this is exactly the dangerous cycle so many older men fall into. Less intimacy, less physical activity, lower testosterone, lower mood. Put together, these weaken the heart. And as the heart weakens, desire disappears. The further you fall into this cycle, the faster your body breaks down. But here's the good news. If you catch this cycle early, you can break free. But first, you have to understand the scientific evidence that proves this isn't just getting old. It's a measurable warning sign of cardiovascular disease. Now let's move forward into the next part, where you'll see the hard numbers and the warnings no man should ignore. Erectile dysfunction isn't just a private struggle, it's a medical signal of early disease. Research shows men with erectile dysfunction have twice the risk of heart disease compared to those without it. And here's the critical point. These warning signs often show up 2 to 5 years before doctors ever diagnose coronary artery disease. In other words, your body is sending signals, but most men ignore them. And remember loneliness? Often dismissed as just an emotional burden, it has very real biological consequences. Studies show long-term loneliness raises the risk of heart attack and stroke by almost 30%. Without touch, without hugs, without intimacy, the nervous system reacts as though it's under constant stress. And over time, that stress quietly weakens the entire cardiovascular system. So how often should older men have sex? Large studies show if you're intimate too rarely, less than twice a year, your risk of heart disease rises significantly. But if you have health problems and push frequency too high, almost daily, that's not necessarily healthy either. For most healthy older men, the ideal frequency is 1 to 2 times per week. That's enough to maintain hormones, emotions, and cardiovascular health in balance. So, if you're a man over 60, what should you do? First, start with a medical checkup if you notice erectile problems or lower desire, especially if those come with chest pain or shortness of breath during exertion. If you live with diabetes, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol, tracking your sexual health is not optional. It's a crucial part of cardiovascular care. Basic tests, blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, waist circumference are all essential. And if erectile problems continue, even when basic tests look fine, your doctor may recommend a CT coronary calcium scan to check for plaque in your heart's arteries. At the same time, make lifestyle changes. Start simple, brisk walking, 30 minutes a day, or at least 150 minutes of exercise each week. Cut back on bad fats, eat more vegetables, sleep enough, quit smoking, and limit alcohol. You've heard these before, but they are the foundation for both a healthy sex life and a strong heart. Don't forget the mind. If you live alone or feel yourself pulling away from others, reach out. Join a club, play light sports, or even talk with a therapist. Human connection doesn't just lift your mood, it strengthens your heart. And what about medications? Many men wonder, are Viagra or Cialis safe? The good news is, most men with stable heart disease can use them safely, as long as they are not taking nitrate medications. Mixing the two can cause dangerous drops in blood pressure. The key is, don't self-medicate. Always consult your doctor. As for testosterone, don't think of it as a magic youth pill. Use it only if blood tests show you're truly deficient, and always under a doctor's supervision. I think of one of my patients, Mr. Yamato, 70 years old, living with diabetes and high blood pressure. He started walking 30 minutes every morning, improved his diet, and gave up alcohol. After just 3 months, he told me, "Doctor, I don't just feel stronger. I've started to remember what it feels like to be close to my wife again." And his wife just smiled, saying, "He's become the man I fell in love with when we were young." Intimacy is not something you give up on. It's something you recover as your health returns. It's not only for your partner, it's for you. You deserve to live with strength, joy, and wholeness. But no matter what you do or where you begin, always remember, recovery starts with how you see yourself. And to see this more clearly, let's move into the final part, where you'll discover why keeping the fire of intimacy alive is the same as keeping your longevity, your connection, and even the meaning of your life. I once asked an older patient, "What makes you feel truly alive, not just existing?" He didn't mention money or houses or fame. He just looked at me and said, "It's when I can still touch someone, and when someone touches me with trust." For so many men over 60, losing sexual desire is not just about the body. It feels like losing a part of themselves, a part that gave them confidence, connection, love, and the sense of still being who they are. But the most dangerous thing is when we start to believe this is normal, inevitable, unchangeable. The truth is, you can change, you can recover, and you can rebuild your energy, your closeness, your life, from the inside out. Losing intimacy after 60 isn't just natural aging. It may be the alarm bell of your heart, your hormones, your mind. If you listen and take action, you won't just protect your health. You'll protect your very life. Because when you keep the fire of intimacy, you're not just preserving closeness with your partner. You're preserving healthy arteries, balanced hormones, and a positive mind. And all of that becomes the foundation of a longer, happier, healthier life. If this video has sparked something inside you, a feeling, a thought, or even a question you've been keeping to yourself, then start your journey back with just one small step. It could be a checkup. It could be a walk. It could even be simply holding your wife's hand in silence. I can't tell you what will happen next, but I can promise you this. Every step you take toward connection is one more step toward healing your heart. If you care about restoring vitality, improving hormones, strengthening your mind, and truly living again after 60, be sure to watch my upcoming videos. And if this message spoke to you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next step on your journey toward a stronger heart, a healthier body, and a more meaningful life. You are not alone on this journey.